The morning sun hit the street just right, so bright it made the white fences look like movie props. And the silence, well, the silence was that weird, brittle kind you only get in neighborhoods where someone, somewhere, is just itching to enforce it. I was out there, tightening the last screw on my new mailbox. Nothing fancy, just a sturdy slate gray one I picked out myself when I saw them. The HOA board, marching across the street like a flock of geese, determined, synchronized, dead serious. At the head was Mara Green, sun visor, clipboard, and that smile that wasn't really a smile. The kind of look that says, I don't just live here, I own this place. Doug Reeves followed, tape measure swinging from his belt, eyebrows bunched in a knot of perpetual suspicion. Good morning, I said because, hey, it's what you do. Mara didn't miss a beat. Mr. Carter, your mailbox color is non-compliant. It violates Oak Rest Meadows standards. I glanced at my mailbox, then back at her. That's fine. I'm not under your HOA. Mara's eyes flickered. First confusion, then insult, as if I'd told her the sun rises in the west. Doug snorted. Every house on this street is under our HOA. I just smiled, kept my voice calm. Not this one. You might want to check your map. You'd think I'd just started speaking ancient Greek. Mara's tone got sharper. You can't just opt out. We'll call the authorities. I shrugged. Go ahead. Doug tapped his phone, and right then, just to put the cherry on top, I heard the hum of a patrol car engine getting closer. Blue and red lights flashed against those perfect driveways. Neighbors froze with lawnmowers halfway pushed, phones out, whispering. 3 HOA board members ready to lay down the law. Only, I didn't know the truth. They didn't know I didn't just own my house. I owned the very block they were standing on. Oak Rest Meadows looks like the kind of place you'd see on a real estate flyer. Every house at a perfect angle, lawns clipped within an inch of their lives, shutters painted in exactly 3 approved shades. Even the mailboxes line up like little soldiers. If peace had a zip code, it would be this one. That's what I thought when I moved in. 36, engineer, numbers over neighbors, bought the house through a county auction. Foreclosure property, paperwork mess. Most people skipped it. I saw a project. Quiet, affordable, a place I could fix up myself. What I didn't realize was that Oak Rest didn't run on kindness. It ran on rules. The air felt thick with them. Neighbors waved, but only for a second. Sprinklers clicked on in unison, like the whole street was set to one master timer. And at the center of it all was Mara Green. If Oak Rest had royalty, she was it. She wasn't elected. She was inevitable. People whispered she'd been HOA president since the day the first moving truck rolled in. Her mantra, community standards are non-negotiable. Doug Reeves was her right hand, the guy who believed measuring things was an Olympic sport. My first week, I found a note taped to my garage. Welcome to Oak Rest Meadows. Please remember that all trash bins must be hidden from street view at all times. 2 days later, a second note. Your porch light appears to be 25 watts above community standard. I hadn't even unpacked half my boxes, and already I was on someone's list. At first, it didn't faze me. I'd survived corporate offices, traffic court, apartment managers with delusions of grandeur. Mara and Doug? Just another flavor of middle management, only this time with lawns. But every note, every friendly reminder, carried the same unspoken message. This isn't just your home, it's ours, and we'll tell you how to live in it. Neighbors went along to keep the peace, called Mara helpful, Doug dedicated, but you could see it in their faces, the tension, the hurry to close garage doors when her SUV rolled by. Me? I've never been good at letting people tell me what to do. Not out of pride, just habit. I build things that last under pressure. I live that way too. That's why I picked this place. Last house on the block, back against a stretch of county greenbelt. Just enough space to breathe, a little buffer between me and all that HOA energy. I like knowing I could step into my yard and not get sucked into a 30-minute talk about the dangers of unapproved mulch. But the signs are there, emails, stairs when I parked facing the wrong way, invitations that felt more like summons. Oak Rest Meadows was perfect on the outside. Inside, it was all about control dressed up as community. And soon enough, perfection here became something I owed, not something I'd earned. One Tuesday, it showed up in my mailbox, a thin white envelope stamped Oakrest Meadows HOA, official notice. Inside, a single sheet, bold letters at the top, violation 00001, unauthorized mailbox design. According to the letter, my new gray mailbox failed to meet approved color standards as outlined in Section 5, Subsection D of the Oakrest Meadows Homeowners Charter. They even gave me a deadline, 7 days, to repaint or face a $75 a day fine. I almost laughed. At first, I thought it was a mistake, maybe meant for another house. But nope. My name, my address, my crime. And at the bottom, in blue ink, Mara Green, President. So it wasn't a mistake. It was a warning. Curious, I dug out the HOA welcome packet, buried under bills and takeout menus. Inside was a glossy map labeled Oakrest Meadows Jurisdiction, Phase 1 and 2. I traced the outlines, finger on my lot, the last one, right at the edge. There, in the faintest gray, was the county boundary, showing my property hanging just outside the HOA's shaded territory. Easy to miss, but to an engineer's eye, clear as day. Just to be sure, I called the county. After a few transfers, a clerk named Janet answered. Nope, she said after some typing. Your lot isn't inside the HOA border. In fact, you're 27 feet outside it. She sounded almost delighted to confirm. They can't issue violations or collect fees. You're in the unincorporated zone. For the first time in weeks, I felt lighter. All those passive-aggressive notes? Suddenly just noise, easily tuned out. That relief lasted, 6 hours. By evening, my phone buzzed. Urgent. Failure to comply with community standard. Mara again. Despite multiple notices, you continue to display a mailbox that violates community color guidelines. The HOA board has voted to escalate this matter under the Community Annexation Clause Section 9D. Immediate compliance expected. Legal escalation, police involvement, the works. The Community Annexation Clause? That's not law. That's fantasy. Still, the threat was clear. This wasn't about a mailbox. It was about power. And I just challenged the queen in her own castle. So I printed Janet's email, slipped it into a folder marked HOA Correspondence, an old engineering habit. Document before you act. As the sun dropped behind the perfect houses, I stared at the invisible line that made me an outsider. 27 feet. That was all it took. By week's end, the reminders turned into daily fines. Yellow envelopes, emails with itemized charges, even threats of property liens. The parade of board members photographing my mailbox became routine. A post appeared on the neighborhood forum. Non-compliant property threatens Oakrest aesthetic. My front yard, now a cautionary tale. Neighbors stopped waving. Some crossed the street to avoid me. One slipped a note in my box. They did this to the Wagners, too. Don't back down. So I didn't. I kept everything, letters, emails, screenshots from the forum. And then I did what no one else had bothered to do. I checked the county records. Turns out, Oakrest Meadows had been enforcing their rules beyond the original boundary for 6 years. Never finalized, just proposed amendment pending. They'd never filed the update. I confirmed at the county office, where a guy with wireframe glasses and stacks of maps taller than his chair pulled up the records. They never resubmitted, he said, grinning. They're still stuck at the 2010 lines. Let me guess, they're still trying to fine you. He laughed. People forget bylaws aren't law. He handed me a stamped, certified map. And that's when I noticed something else. Faint lines, utility easements running under my property. Water, fiber, drainage for half the block. The HOA's own infrastructure ran beneath my lawn. Legally, I own the ground under their sprinklers, their walking trail, even the retention pond. That evening, Doug walked by again, phone out, snapping more photos. I waved. He didn't. Another email. Escalation notice, final warning. This time, the word defiance crept in. I sipped my coffee, reading threats like weather reports. For the first time, I wasn't cornered. I was curious. I had their rule book and the real law. Saturday, they called a mandatory compliance hearing. The cul-de-sac became a courtroom. Folding chairs, neighbors, Mara at a podium, Doug with binders of evidence. even a police cruiser idling at the curb. "Mr. Carter," Mara announced, voice on the mic. "Thank you for joining us. This hearing is to address your continued refusal." I cut her off, gentle as I could. "Refusal? You can't refuse something you're not a part of." A ripple of whispers. Mara straightened. "Let the record show the homeowner is uncooperative." Doug scribbled. They read the list. Mailbox, landscaping, obstruction of visual uniformity. I couldn't help myself. "Uniformity?" I said. "You mean matching everything so no one's home stands out?" A couple of neighbors snickered. Then I asked, "Under which recorded covenant are you enforcing these rules?" The room went still. Mara fumbled. "All of them." "That's not an answer," I replied. "Every HOA needs a recorded charter." I checked the county. Last filing, 2010. No amendments, no annexations. Your authority ends 27 feet before my mailbox. Doug stammered about years of compliance. Mara insisted on order, but you could see the doubt in the crowd. Even the officer at the curb was listening now. So I pulled out my folder, deed, county map, certified copies, and handed them to the officer. "According to Fairfax County, my property is outside the HOA's jurisdiction." He studied the papers, silent. The only sound was someone's mower 2 streets over. Finally, the officer spoke. "Ma'am, he's right. This property isn't under your HOA." You could feel the power drain from Mara's face, like someone pulled the plug. She tried to pivot. "We'll pursue annexation retroactively." I shook my head. "That proposal was rejected 6 years ago." "Good luck." Quiet laughter, neighbors muttering, some openly smiling now. "Go ahead," I told Doug. "Write whatever you want." Even the officer looked amused. Then came the twist, the moment that changed everything. A voice from the crowd. Betty Walsh, lived here longer than Mara, stood up. "So, officer, are you saying the HOA's been charging people not even under their authority?" The officer nodded. "That's exactly what I'm saying." Murmurs, a few gasps. Someone whispered, "That's illegal, isn't it?" "Can be," the officer said. "Depends how persistent it's been." Mara's voice shrank. "You think you can humiliate me in front of everyone?" I just shook my head. "You did that yourself." After the crowd broke up, the silence in Oakrest wasn't relief. It was shock. The illusion had cracked. But that wasn't the end. In the days that followed, I started combing foreclosure notices and county auction filings. Old habits die hard. That's when I saw them. 3 parcels up for bid. The retention lot, the walkway, the utility buffer. All in common area, but technically never transferred to the HOA. I bought them. Paid in full, papers stamped, leverage acquired. Next HOA board meeting, I didn't come alone. With me was Mr. Klein, property lawyer, and a deputy from the sheriff's office. I set 3 folders on the table. Deeds to the retention lot, the trail, and the land under their precious clubhouse. The room went silent. Mara's confidence turned to disbelief, then panic. "You can't just take that from us." Mr. Klein calmly corrected her. "Not taking buying. The county never executed the transfer. These parcels belong to Mr. Carter." The crowd started to cheer. It wasn't rebellion. It was relief. I wasn't interested in revenge. I offered truce. You can still use the park and the hall, rent-free. All I ask is the HOA formally dissolve claims over what it doesn't own. The sheriff nodded. "That's fair." Even Betty smiled, saying, "I always knew that woman would pick the wrong fight one day." By the following week, the HOA was in full retreat. Resignations, deleted emails, their website replaced by a notice. "This domain has been suspended due to administrative noncompliance." County records confirmed it. Oakrest Meadows HOA dissolved. Power had finally come home to the people who actually lived here. That's when the real change happened. The fear, the gossip, the watching eyes gone. Neighbors started waving again. People planted wildflowers, cacti, let their kids draw on the sidewalk. The old community hall became a book swap, an art room for the neighborhood. The plaque at the park entrance, one I installed myself, reads, "Respect is stronger than rules." And Mara? Her house sold in a week. The "for sale" sign flickered in the afternoon sun, a silent punctuation mark on the end of an era. Doug moved 2 streets over. Betty brought banana bread and apologies. The HOA sign at the entrance came down, replaced by one that simply says, "Welcome to Oakrest, a free community." Months later, the county sent a note congratulating us on the successful transition to self-managed residential cooperation. Bureaucratic, sure, but I kept it. The best part? I didn't have to be anyone's hero. I just read the fine print. The real lesson? It isn't about winning. It's not even about being right. It's about what happens when one person decides to look past the rules everyone takes for granted and just checks the map. Power only works when people don't ask questions. But truth? Truth just needs sunlight and someone stubborn enough not to back down. So now, as I stand by my mailbox, still gray, still mine, I'll watch kids laugh, bikes race, lawns bloom wild, and neighbors greet each other without looking over their shoulders. Oakrest Meadows isn't perfect, but for the first time, it's honest. And that, I think, is the real kind of peace. Let me ask you, have you ever faced power pretending to protect you? When is order just another name for control? I'd love to hear your story. Drop your thoughts below. Where does justice begin, and who gets to draw the lines?